This video is not a substitute for the original book. We recommend reading or listening to the full version whenever possible. This is a concise summary, crafted for those moments when time, energy, or access to the original is limited. Paulo Coelho. The Alchemist. The Boy Who Dreamed of Treasure. Once, in the golden hills of Andalusia, a young shepherd boy named Santiago wandered with his flock. His days were simple, filled with sun, sheep, and silence. And his nights were spent under a sky scattered with stars, dreaming of places he had never seen. He loved being free. No masters, no borders, only the open land and the sound of bells from his sheep. But lately something stirred in his soul, a restlessness, a whisper, a dream. And not just any dream, the same one, again and again. In it, a child appeared. The child took Santiago by the hand and led him across vast lands, over oceans and deserts, to a place he had never known, the pyramids of Egypt. There, at their feet, the child told him, "Your treasure is here." And then the dream would end, always the same, always unfinished. Santiago tried to forget it. After all, dreams are only dreams, but this one clung to him. One day, in a dusty village, he visited a fortune-teller, an old woman with deep lines on her face and eyes that had seen too much. She listened, nodding, and then smiled a strange smile. "You must go to the pyramids," she said. "Your treasure waits there." Santiago laughed. "You're just repeating what I told you." But the old woman was serious. "Dreams speak the language of God. You'd be wise to listen." Confused and a little shaken, he walked through the town square. And that's when he met the man who would change everything. An old stranger, dressed like a king, sitting quietly on a bench. "I am Melchizedek," the man said, as if that name should mean something. "I am the king of Salem." Santiago blinked. "Never heard of it," the man smiled. "No one has. But I know things others don't." And then he asked Santiago a question that pierced straight to his heart. "Have you ever wondered why you're here?" Santiago didn't answer. He didn't need to. The man continued. "Everyone has a personal legend. It's what you've always wanted to do, the reason you were born." And just like that, the dream no longer felt like a dream. It felt like a call. Melchizedek reached into his cloak and pulled out two small stones, one black, one white. "Urim and Thummim," he said. "They'll help you when your heart is unclear. Ask, and the stones will answer, but only if you're brave enough to follow." Santiago hesitated. Leaving meant giving up everything he knew, his flock, his freedom, the girl in the village who smiled when he passed. But what if the dream was real? What if the treasure existed? What if this was his chance? That night, under the stars, he made his decision. He would go. He would follow the dream. He would search for the treasure, not just the one buried in sand, but the one buried in the soul, the kind that only reveals itself to those who dare. Lost and found in Tangier. The ship rocked gently as it reached the African shore. Santiago stepped onto the streets of Tangier, and everything changed. The air smelled different. The language was strange. The people moved quickly with eyes that didn't linger. The boy from Andalusia, who once felt so free among his sheep, now felt small and unsure. Still, he held on to hope. The treasure was out there. He had sold his flock, traded comfort for the unknown, and now it was time to begin. He clutched the pouch of coins close to his chest, the last of his savings. He had no map, no guide, only a dream. But dreams, it turned out, could be stolen. It happened in a heartbeat. A friendly stranger offered to help, a boy who spoke Spanish and seemed kind. He offered to guide Santiago through the bustling streets, to help him find a way to Egypt. But in one crowded moment, in the chaos of the marketplace, the stranger was gone, and so was the money. All of it. Gone. Santiago sat alone in the square, his pockets empty, his chest heavy. He had come so far. For what? A dream? A lie? The desert, the treasure, the pyramids, they all seemed like cruel jokes now. And he, the biggest fool of all. He could go back, find a way home, beg for forgiveness, pretend none of it had happened. But then he remembered the words of the king. When you want something, all the universe conspires to help you achieve it. If that was true, then maybe this was part of the plan, even the pain, even the loss. He looked up, wiped his face, and stood. If he couldn't go forward, he'd survive. He'd start again. And that's how he found the crystal shop. It sat on a hill above the city, dusty, quiet, forgotten. Through the glass, he saw goblets covered in dirt, untouched by time. Santiago walked in and offered to clean them. No money, just food in return. The old merchant hesitated, but something in the boy's eyes made him say yes. By afternoon, the shop sparkled. A tourist walked in and bought a goblet. Just like that, business returned. The merchant hired Santiago, and the boy stayed. Days became weeks. He swept the floors, rearranged displays, brought new ideas. "Let's sell tea in the crystal," he said. "Let's decorate the window. Let's move forward." The merchant resisted. He was afraid of change, but he let Santiago try, and slowly success returned. But with every coin he earned, every day he stayed, something gnawed at Santiago's soul. He was safe. He was earning. He could build a life here, but he wasn't moving. One evening, the merchant looked at him and said, "I had a dream once too, to go to Mecca. But I stayed. I told myself it was enough to dream." And Santiago understood. He didn't want to be like that. He hadn't come to Tangier to sell crystal. He had come to find a treasure. The next morning, he packed his things, said thank you, and walked toward the desert. He was not the same boy who had been robbed in the square. Now he had something stronger than money. He had will. The Caravan and the Englishman. The desert stretched endlessly before him, a sea of sand that shimmered beneath the sun. Santiago stood on the edge of it, wind in his hair, heart steady. He had traded his earnings from the crystal shop for a place in a caravan. Its destination? The great Egyptian pyramids. The journey would be long, dangerous, but he was no longer afraid. As the caravan prepared to depart, Santiago met a curious man dressed in thick robes, carrying heavy books. An Englishman, pale, intense, always reading. His eyes burned with the obsession of someone searching not for treasure, but for knowledge. He was looking for the alchemist. Not just any alchemist. The master who could turn lead into gold, who knew the secrets of the universe, who possessed the fabled philosopher's stone. Santiago was fascinated, not by the books, but by the man's belief, his certainty that hidden truths could be found in ancient texts and strange symbols. "You must learn the language of the world," the Englishman said, "the language of omens, of signs." Santiago nodded. He had heard that before, from the king, from his own heart. The caravan set off. Days turned into weeks. Camels marched in silence. The sun painted shadows across the sand. Sometimes at night Santiago would sit beneath the stars and listen to the wind, to the creak of the caravan's wheels, to the whispers of the world. He watched the other travelers, quiet merchants, veiled women, guards with eyes like stone. And he began to understand. Everyone here carried a dream. Some wanted safety, some wealth, some peace. All were traveling not just across the desert, but toward something they could not name. One evening the Englishman grew frustrated. "You don't study the books," he said. "How can you hope to learn without reading?" Santiago smiled and looked at the horizon. "Because I'm learning to read the world," he said. "Its signs are everywhere." The Englishman scoffed, but deep down he was jealous. The boy saw meaning in things he could not, in hawks circling above, in the silence between the winds, in the way the camels suddenly hesitated. Santiago was discovering something powerful, not from books, but from living. The desert, he realized, was not empty. It spoke in a language older than words. And as he listened, he heard his heart begin to speak, not in fear, not in confusion, but in clarity. "You are getting closer," it seemed to say. "Keep going." The Oasis and the Alchemist. The caravan halted at last. In the middle of the harsh golden desert, a miracle of green, the oasis of Al-Fayoum. Palm trees swayed gently, water shimmered in the light, and life, vibrant and unexpected, pulsed through every corner. Here, Santiago was meant to rest, but fate had other plans. Near a well, beneath the gentle splash of water, he saw her, Fatima. Her eyes, dark and steady, met his, and in that brief moment, the world fell silent. It was love. Not the kind that grows slowly, but the kind that strikes like lightning, sure, pure, inevitable. Every day he returned to the well, not for water, but for her. And when he told her of his dream, of the treasure that waited by the pyramids, she did not ask him to stay. She did not cry or plead. Instead, she smiled. "Go," she said softly. "Follow your legend. I'll be here when you return." That night, Santiago understood something new. Love does not hold you back. Real love sets you free. But destiny was not done testing him. One evening, by the well, he saw hawks in the sky, circling, fighting. A sudden shiver ran through him. It was an omen, a warning. That very night, Santiago told the tribal chiefs of the vision. Some laughed, others listened. One, the elder of the oasis, nodded slowly and said, "If your vision proves false, we will kill you. But if it saves us, you will be honored." The next day, raiders came, just as the boy had seen, and thanks to his warning, the oasis was ready. The battle was swift, the threat past. Santiago had spoken the language of the desert, and the desert had spoken back. That night, a man in black robes appeared by the fire. He wore no jewels, no armor. But when he spoke, his voice cut through the air like wind over stone. "I am the Alchemist." Santiago's breath caught. This was the man the Englishman had sought, but he had come to Santiago instead. "You have listened to your heart," the alchemist said. "You have seen signs others miss. You are ready." Santiago felt the weight of it, not fear, but calling. "Tomorrow," said the alchemist, "we go to the pyramids." And so, with the stars above them and the desert behind, the boy stepped once more into the unknown, not alone, but guided by the man who had mastered the secrets of the world. The wind and the soul of the world. The journey beyond the oasis was quiet, tense, and watched by unseen eyes. The alchemist and Santiago rode side by side, the desert stretching endlessly around them, as if the world itself was holding its breath. "Listen to your heart," the alchemist would say. "It knows the way." But the closer they came to the pyramids, the more Santiago's heart trembled, not with fear, but with reverence, as if something vast and ancient waited for him just beyond the next dune. Then came the test. Captured by a warring tribe, they were dragged to a dusty encampment. Blades were drawn, accusations flew. "He's a sorcerer," the alchemist said calmly, pointing to Santiago. "He can turn himself into the wind." The boy froze. Wind? He could read omens, yes. He could feel signs. But become the wind? The tribal chief gave him 3 days. If he failed, he would die. Alone, under a vast and empty sky, Santiago listened to the sand, to the wind, to the silence between them. "Help me," he whispered, and one by one the elements answered. He spoke to the desert. "What secrets do you hide beneath your silence?" He spoke to the wind. "Carry me, teach me how to fly." He spoke to the sun. "You burn above all, lend me your power." And then finally, he turned inward. He spoke to the soul of the world, that hidden force that connects all things, the pulse that lives in every stone, every breath, every dream. And in that stillness, Santiago understood. He was not separate from the world. He was the world. He was the desert, the wind, the sun. And when he opened his arms, the wind obeyed. It howled through the camp. It lifted sand into the sky. It roared with the voice of something ancient and true. And Santiago vanished into it, not in body, but in soul. The warriors fell to their knees. They had seen a miracle. The boy had spoken the language of the world, and the world had answered. The treasure beneath the tree. He reached the pyramids at last. They stood like sleeping giants under the moonlight, ancient, silent, watching. Santiago fell to his knees. He cried, not from sorrow, but from wonder. The place from his dream was real. He thanked the universe. He thanked the desert. He thanked his heart for leading him here. Then he began to dig. All night he worked, hands raw, breath short, his heart pounding like a drum of destiny. But there was nothing. Until a group of men appeared, desert thieves. They laughed when they saw him digging. "What are you doing?" one asked. "I'm looking for treasure," Santiago answered. They beat him hard, kicked him, spat on him. One of them sneered. "You fool," he said. "I had a dream too. It told me of a treasure buried beneath a tree, in the ruins of an old church in Spain. But I'm not stupid enough to cross a desert for a dream." Then they left him, bleeding in the sand. And Santiago laughed because he understood. The treasure had never been here. It had been waiting for him, back home, under that very tree where he had once slept with his sheep, where the journey began. The dream wasn't a map, it was a compass, and it had guided him, not to gold, but to transformation. He returned to Spain, to the old church, to the tree. He dug, and there beneath the roots, the real treasure gleamed in the dirt. Ancient gold, gems, artifacts. But none of it mattered more than what he had gained, because the true treasure was this. He had followed his heart. He had trusted the language of the world. He had lived his personal legend. And now, with the treasure in hand, he turned to the wind and whispered, "I'm coming back, Fatima." And somewhere deep in the desert her heart stirred, because she already knew.